Hello everybody, Dylan Cliché here. Welcome to another episode of Dylan's Disney Movie Reviews. Let's talk about author Ray Bradbury. Born on August 22nd, 1920 in Waukegan, Illinois, and died on June 5th, 2012 at the age of 91. The books he wrote in his lifetime were The Martian Chronicles in 1950, The Illustrated Man in 1951, Fahrenheit 451 in 1953, The October Country in 1955, Dandelion Wine in 1957, and Something Wicked This Way Comes in 1962. The last book that I mentioned would later go on to be adapted into a feature film by Disney in the early 1980s, which Ray Bradbury wrote the script for, and it happens to be what I'm reviewing this week. Released on April 29th, 1983, the movie is Something Wicked This Way Comes. The film opens with a carnival train traveling through the night as the opening credits roll. After the credits, the scene changes to a sunny afternoon and a narrator gives a speech.
First of all, it was October, a rare month for boys. Full of cold winds, long nights, dark promises. Days get short, the shadows lengthen. The wind mourns in such a way you want to run forever through the fields. Because up ahead, 10,000 pumpkins lie waiting to be cut. It was the October of my 12th year when the seller of lightning rods came along the road toward Greentown, Illinois, sneaking glances over his shoulder. Somewhere not far back was a terrible storm. Even now, on those special autumn days when the air smells like smoke and the twilights are orange and ash gray, my mind goes back to Greentown, the place where I grew up. In my memory, I'm back on Main Street again, among the neighbors who gave me my first glimpses into the fearful needs of the human heart.
The narrator then introduces some of the townspeople, including Mr. Tetley, the cigar store owner, played by Jack Dangle, Mr. Crossetti, the barber, played by the late Richard Davalos, Ed, the amputated bartender, played by the late James Stacy, who in real life actually did have his left limbs amputated after a motorcycle accident, Miss Foley, the school teacher, played by the late Mary Grace Canfield, Will Holloway, the narrator as a young boy, played by Sean Carson, and his best friend Jim Nightshade, played by Vital Peterson. The two boys then leave.
Never. Of course I can. I'm older. Not older. We were born on the same night. Yeah, I was born 1 minute too late. But you were born 2 minutes after. You see? I won't always be younger than you. Hey, Mr. Crissetti.
Hello, boys.
Hello, Mr. Tetley.
Look on now, don't be messing up my work. All right, come on, I'll race you. What is it?
They arrive at the library where Will's father, Charles, played by the late Jason Roberts, is the librarian.
Hello, son.
You saw me.
Well, what can I find you that'll keep you awake all night? Let's see. Travels to the North Pole, Wild West, Zane Grey, huh?
I don't think so, Dad.
Well, I thought all boys liked adventure.
Well, I don't know. Do all fathers? Mine sure does. He's in Africa right now, the Gold Coast of Africa. But he's coming back real soon, and he's bringing me a present. He's bringing me a parrot. The letter said a green and yellow one, and a native spear, and a war drum, and a necklace made of human teeth. Oh, yes, and a shrunken head. Have you ever seen a shrunken head? Only yours.
boy, now, young Jim Nightshade, what can I find you? Something from the Arabian Nights now, full of magicians and monsters. You know, let's see, Drums of Doom, the Saga of the Thunder Lizards.
No thanks, Mr. Holloway. Something about headhunters. Well, they're my father's friends right now.
They then go home where a man named Tom Fury, played by the late Royal Dano, tells Jim that his house has creaking timbers and is in need of protection, so he offers him a lightning rod and has him tell his father.
Jim? Is that you, Jim?
Yes, Mom?
Darling, can you get yourself something to eat out of the icebox? There's a ham in there and some peanut butter. Mother's just all tired out, darling. Jim, what are you doing? Cat got your tongue?
Oh, we're buying a lightning rod, Mom!
Don't make jokes, please.
Jim then buys the lightning rod from Mr. Fury. He then nails it to the chimney of his house, and he and Will see a newspaper advertising a carnival on Saturday, the 24th.
Why, that's tomorrow!
That night, Mrs. Holloway, played by Ellen Greer, sees Charles is sad, and he says it's Will.
He should be able to play baseball with his son.
Baseball is not necessary. Not with a heart like yours. He'll forgive you that.
Maybe so. You know, I feel restless. Must be a storm coming.
Later, Charles goes back to the library. Mr. Fury walks outside and he enters a place with a dead witch in a coffin. Meanwhile, the carnival train arrives. Will and Jim see it and go check it out. They then follow the train up the track, and the carnival is already set up.
But how could it... Come on! Jim, don't.
In town, Charles sees that the coffin with the dead witch inside is missing. He then returns home where he finds Will out of bed and tells him that he thought he heard a train.
Couldn't be, though. Not this time of night.
No, it couldn't have been. Couldn't be a carnival, could it? Not in October. I mean, you never saw no scraps of paper, did you? Not about any carnival coming.
3 o'clock. They call it the soul's midnight.
Do they? Why?
I don't know. I guess it's the time when a lot of people die. Old people. I only meant old people.
Old people.
The next day, Will and Jim go back to the carnival where they see Ed, who wins a game and gets a free pass to the mirror maze.
Thank you. I wish I was out there to run, to throw, tackle, touchdowns. I mean, there's nothing like to smell that grass, to run on the field.
Want to go in? No. No? Yeah. Those mirrors.
Miss Foley comes out of the mirror maze, and the boys ask her if she's okay.
Jim, Will, my two whisperers. I'm all right now. Yes, of course I am. Silly. I must be tired out, I guess. Why, it's so bright in there. So beautiful. So strange. It must have dazed me. I don't quite remember. I must get home. My little nephew is arriving.
She ill? Hell no. Must be a shock, though, staring in all those mirrors. Especially if you have a face like that.
Meanwhile, the witch, played by Pam Dyer, is telling Mr. Crossetti's fortune.
It's a miracle. Your eyes see everything.
Only I think there is something missing from your life. Something that could make you so happy. Ladies. You have lived here a long time without the scent of ladies' skin. They're waiting for you, my good sir. Call them.
Elsewhere in the carnival, Mr. Tetley gets on the Ferris wheel with a lady.
This is my lucky day. May I, this is my lucky day. I just won $1,000, and I have it here, and now I get to sit next to a, if I may say so, a very beautiful woman. It's a lucky day. And number 2, I won on a number 2. Did you know that? Yeah. Oh, how could you know it?
Jim watches some dancing ladies through a hole in the tent, and Mr. Crossetti is in watching them from inside the tent. A little man then catches the boys peeping.
Sorry, boys. Too young. Come back in 10 years.
Just saw. Shut up.
Will and Jim then see a merry-go-round, which is out of order.
Wow. This one's my favorite.
They're then caught by Mr. Dark and Mr. Cougar, played by Jonathan Pryce and the late Bruce Sam Fisher, respectively.
The sign says out of order, boys. I don't they teach you reading at this town's academy? Introductions all around? My name is Mr. Dark. I advise you to respect it.
of Dark's Pandemonium Carnival?
Isn't he the brave one?
Mr. Dark gives the boys a couple of tickets and then they leave. Jim then suspects that something happens after sunset and says that they should stay and see.
We can't stay after it closes. They'll chuck us out. If they can't find us, they won't. Come on.
Later after sunset, the boys return to the merry-go-round, which Mr. Cougar gets on. Mr. Dark starts it and it goes backwards. During the ride, Mr. Cougar de-ages and becomes a little boy.
It's late. Time to go about your work. Mr. Cougar.
He then leaves, and Will and Jim follow him to Miss Foley's house. Jim tries to warn her, however, they just say that they're checking on her, and she invites them in.
Come in, Robert. I'd like you to meet my young nephew, Robert.
Will tries to warn Miss Foley. Jim says that Will won't be at school on Monday because he's sick, and then they leave. Followed by Robert, who breaks Miss Foley's window with a rock and runs away. She thinks Will did it, and he and Jim run away.
Ah! Dad.
What's the trouble, boy?
Charles then talks to Will about what they were trying to do about last night.
It's one we should have had a long time ago. About that strong old current that swept you way out in the middle of the river. And I stood there and watched, tied to the riverbank and helpless. Because I had a dad who didn't think it was right to teach boys to swim. Well, there was a man standing drinking liquor out of a stone bottle on the other side of the river, and he dove in after you. Dove in without even taking his boots off and pulled you out of danger. I guess you must have been all 4 years old at the time.
I knew someone caught hold of me.
Someone who wasn't me.
He then mentions that the man who saved Will was Jim's father, Harry Nightshade, before he went out to sea and was never seen again.
Mr. Nightshade did your father's work. Can't forgive myself for that. Or him either, I guess.
Will then goes to bed. In Jim's room, his mother comes in, and Jim asks her if he looks like his father.
Too like. The day you leave home, my Harry will be dead forever. Go to sleep now.
Okay. Good night, Mom.
Good night, darling.
At Miss Foley's house, she turns younger and also becomes blind.
Help me! Please help me! Please help me!
Later, Will sees Jim going out, so he follows him, and Jim says he's going back to the merry-go-round.
Oh, no, you ain't. He'll be there. That Mr. Cougar. Making himself so big and tall and strong that he'll kill us. Let go, or so help me. I'll remember this when I'm what? When I'm older, darn it, older. You're older? I didn't mean. Oh, yes, you did. If that darn merry-go-round could make Mr. Cougar younger, why, you think you'd be older if you got on it and went the other way around. Is that what you figured out in your little mind, Jim Nightshade? You'd be 2 feet taller looking down at me. And you'd ditch me.
They return to the carnival, where Mr. Dark has Tom strapped to an electric chair and asks him when the storm is coming, and he even has the dust switch subduce him.
Most beautiful. More beautiful than Pocahontas and Helen of Troy.
You will tell me when the storm is coming. When comes the storm?
Oh, Tom Fury says the lightning shall jump the world and make men hop and skip like scalded cats.
You fool. Lightning shall make you hop and make you tell.
Mr. Dark starts up the chair.
Tom Fury has the secret. When? So does the lightning and the thunder.
Stop! Stop it!
Mr. Dark sends the witch to find the boys. They return home. Will's mother's not happy with him for sneaking out at night and sends him back to bed. Later, Charles comes in and talks to him.
You know, I never liked my father either a lot of the time.
Was Grandpa a good man?
Everyone thought so.
He knew about evil.
Sure talked a lot about it.
Really knew?
We had devils for breakfast, lunch, and supper in our house.
I believe in devils. But if you're a good person, they can't hurt you, can they? Am I a good person?
I wouldn't count on your mother's answer right now, but I think you're.
Later that night, Will goes over to Jim's room and he gets infested by tarantulas.
Quick, Jim, this way. Look out!
But luckily, the lightning rod saves them. The next day, Mr. Dark leads a parade consisting of some of the townspeople, and the boys believe it's a search party for them, so they go into the bar, and Will calls his father.
Hello.
Dad, they're after us.
Look, son. You come home. And I can't. Will.
Charles goes into the bar where he asks Doc Douglas, played by the late Jack Dodson, if he's seen the boys, and Mr. Dark comes in looking for the boys.
Town's full of them.
Yes, no doubt, sir, no doubt. But these boys in particular, they're two of a kind. Much of a height. One tow-headed, the other black as pitch. You could take them for blood brothers.
What have they done?
Done, sir? Why, nothing wrong, surely. Now, they're two lucky lads who won prizes at the carnival. I merely wish to give them the valuable rewards that they so richly deserve. Can you help me?
Charles goes outside, finds Will and Jim under the sidewalk, and then Mr. Dark shows up and asks him if he knows the boys.
Well, now, I wouldn't want a couple of kids to miss out on their good fortune. Let me see, that one. Yes, I know him well. His name's,
Yes?
Milton Blomquist. And that, oh, that's Avery Johnson. Yeah, fine boys, fine. Both of them quite a credit to this little town, if you want to know the truth.
I do want to know the truth, sir. And the truth is that you are lying. You see, I already have their names. I got them from a blind girl, used to be a teacher hereabouts. A poor creature by the name of Foley. Will is the fair-haired, and Jim the dark.
Charles invites Mr. Dark to meet him at the library, and as Dark leaves, Charles tells Will to come to the library. That night at the library, the boys tell Charles that the parade was a search party to find them, so they hid because nobody believed them, but Charles does and reads his father's diary to them.
October 1891. We have had no good fortunes since there arrived here the autumn carnival. It seems strange to speak of such things in these enlightened days. A poor lame servant girl went to the fortune teller to inquire how she might run. Her leg mended. And then she ran mad. It seems they destroy people by granting their dearest wishes, as has been the way of the devil since God created the world. Old folks of this town say they remember such a carnival of evil, visiting many autumns past in the days of their youth.
The boys then sense that Mr. Dark's coming, and Charles tells them to hide. Dark then shows up and looks for the boys.
How'd you like to be king of the carnival, Jim? The ruler of the rides? How'd you like to be grown up, Jim? How would that feel, huh? Not to be looked down at. Not to be told to run away and play. To be trusted. To be feared. To know what grown-ups do behind locked doors when children are asleep. Come out to me, Jim.
Charles then sees that Dark's the Autumn people. Dark then says that he'll make Charles young again if he tells him where the boys are.
Let's say 30 and speak, or you've missed it. It's gone. 31. 32. 32. Year of a man's prime, loved by many women. You might still learn to swim. 32. Going. Gone. 33. 34. 35. 35. Oh, 35. Time to father a family.
Build a fortune. 35 a year when you could run up the stairs without panting for breath. 35. Gone. 36. 37. Where are they? 38. Here, your heart. Here, my count. 39. Now. 39, a fine year. Still young. 39. Gone. Oh, 40. 40, and here, your old heart.
After Charles resists, Stark knocks him out and continues looking for the boys. While looking, he tells Will that his mother rode the merry-go-round.
She went backwards and forwards until she was quite mad. You should have heard the one single sound she made.
Stark finds the boys and takes them away. Charles comes to and heads to the carnival. On the way, a storm is coming.
Harry, is that you? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Holloway. I was expecting somebody else. See, I have a message. I have a ticket. And
Whatever the message
what
will
are you
be like,
doing?
believe me and go home.
No, I have to
Go
wait here
home,
for
Mrs.
Harry. I'm
Nightshade.
not.
For God's sake,
No.
go home. The man coming for you isn't your husband.
But they told me.
Charles enters the mirror maze and Dark taunts him about his age.
Not dead yet, Mr. Holloway. Come looking in my mirrors for another chance. Shall I help you find it? Would you know it if you saw it? Here, the mirror of dreams of beauty. Can Crossetti tell you of incredible loves he never lived? Over here. See, the mirror of riches beyond wishing, where Mr. Tetley is buried. Holloway, look. Look here for the great and famous. Ed, the barman hero of all the football years. All his cheering crowds gone. Here, the looking glass of pride and ruined vanity, where wars of time are fought and lost.
Dark then says that Will hates him, but then Will finds him and declares he loves him.
I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you.
Charles and Will then save Jim from Dark as he was about to get on the merry-go-round. Lightning strikes it, Dark ages, and Charles and Will express happiness, which wakes up Jim.
Look.
Daddy's alive! Jim!
They then escape from the carnival and it's blown away by a tornado. Charles, Will, and Jim then go home, and the film ends with another narration from older Will.
For my father, being old was all right now. He had freed himself from the shadows and liberated our town. So I think he knew on that bright morning that he'd made a memory that would live as long as sons tell sons about fathers they love.
And that was Something Wicked This Way Comes. My thoughts? It's very good. On a budget of $20 million, the film became a flop by only making a little more than $8.4 million domestically and got mixed reviews from critics. Now let's move on to the production of the film. In 1948, Ray Bradbury wrote a book as a movie script which would be adapted from his short story Black Ferris in 1958. It was intended to be a directorial vehicle for Gene Kelly, but the project was never financed, and Bradbury turned the project into a novel which would be published in 1962. Then, about a decade later, in 1971, Bradbury would write a new script for a film based on the novel for Jack Clayton. In early 1973, Sam Peckinpah was originally the director, and Bradbury wrote the screenplay. In summer 1976, Clayton would take the job as director, and Kirk Douglas's company, the Brina Company, was developing the property. Douglas was interested in it after meeting with Bradbury at a Los Angeles bookstore and wanted to star in it, with his son Peter producing it alongside Robert Chardoff and Erwin Winker. They made a deal with Paramount Pictures, who would finance it with $6 million. It was to be shot on location in Texas, but the project never started and was placed into turnaround by Paramount president Barry Diller during the objections from feature division president David V. Picker. For many times, Mark Rydell and Steven Spielberg were interested in making the movie. At the time, Walt Disney Pictures focused more on films that had more mature themes, trying to break free from its image as an animation and family studio. Then in 1981, Disney bought the film rights to the book and said that it would be put into production with a budget of $16 million. Bradbury was asked by Disney for his input on choosing the cast and director, which Clayton took. Feeling like they worked very good at Paramount, Peter Douglas came back as producer, but his father wasn't able to star in it. Later, Bradbury had his top pick for Mr. Dark, which was Peter O'Toole and Christopher Lee, but to make sure they didn't go over budget, they decided that Jonathan Pryce would be Mr. Dark, even though he wasn't very well known at the time. The principal photography started in September 1981 and went on for 77 days. The shooting mainly took place in Newhall, California at Disney's Golden Oak Ranch, since filming on location would have raised the budget. During the filming, two visions came out for the movie. Bradbury and Clayton wanted it to be as close to the book as they could, while Disney wanted the film to be more accessible for a family-friendly audience. And now it's time for me to give my opinion on the film. In the end, Something Wicked This Way Comes is a very good adaptation of the novel, and Jonathan Pryce did a great job performing as Mr. Dark. I give this film a rating of 4 stars out of 5. Well, that's it for Something Wicked This Way Comes. Be sure to join me next week when I'll be reviewing the second theatrical Disney Channel original movie series film adaptation after the Lizzie McGuire movie. And if you enjoyed this video, then please tell your friends about me, leave some questions in the comments below, subscribe, and hit that like button.